Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and it is a very exciting time in Epic 7. But before that, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and catch me at Twitch at twitch.tv/Wild Neptune. So, it is the balanced preview where we get to cry about the heroes that have not been buffed this time around. But this time, I think there will be much rejoicing in the world of Epic 7 because in today's batch, we have Apoc Ravi, Luna, Calric, the Great Mortelix, Roman Warrior Leo, Dominio, Mercedes for the 420th time. Also, Merciless Glutton, Secret Art Storm Stored, and Calric is getting a EE change. So, bunch of heroes that people have been asking for a long time. Let's start off with Apoc Ravi. So, the S1, Spectral Axe. Now we'll get injury on it. It works like every other injury mechanic. And so this one is a max of 10% because it is on an S1, so it can't be too strong. And the soul burn will increase the damage, right? And it'll do more damage than before, which is good. War God's Might, which is the S2 passive, will now give a straight up 15% CR push like regular Ravi has. And the S3 will now revive with 30% HP instead of 10%, and that is significant. Also, damage dealt increased by this skill increases every time somebody dies, up to 3 times. So depending on how much the damage stacks, you could maybe like guarantee a kill with it late into a match, because typically you only bring APOC into a slower either like a slower stall type fight, or maybe with like a build now you can like bring her into mid speed type battles just as like a sustained bruiser with this current kit. I think out of everything here, the biggest change is the CR boost. I say this because Charlotte, before she got her EE, was decent, but not like a top tier hero. Not like one of the premier DPS picks you have. And once she got that EE that gave her the CR boost, well, she was off to the races. And I think just this here is gonna do a lot for Apoc Ravi. Luna. So, first off, the soul burn is changing to her S1. It's 10 souls to increase the number of attacks to max. And that's pretty good for consistency purposes, because when you hit like the min hits, it feels really bad. If you hit like mid hits, it's like eh. But max hits, you do big D damage, right? Like big booba damage. That's what you're doing when you do max hits with Luna. Her passive. So now she will always get the crit hit chance and crit hit resistance. So this will both increase her consistency in terms of how much damage she's putting out, but will also give her a little bit more survivability, some RNG in her kit. The increased attack and defense is still the same, so you do still have to be at above 50% to have the increased attack, and when you're below, you have the increased defense. So, but now this is the big one right here. 50% defense penetration added to the S3. 50% defense pen is a lot. This thing is going to hit like a truck, especially because she always has elemental advantage on the S3, which means she will always do the extra damage, and she will always have that extra 15% chance to crit if she needs, like, even if she needed it, right? Because she already has the 30% boost already, which means that. Oh, and also, you get 5 souls from it, and you get an additional 5 souls when you kill an enemy with this skill that will always be advantageous element, and that will penetrate defense by 50%. So Luna has an EE, which says if you kill somebody with the S3, you take an extra turn. So what you do is you S3 with Luna, you kill somebody, and then you can immediately soul burn her S1 for max hits. That seems pretty decent. We'll have to see how it works out. She is still a very greedy unit. She doesn't really bring anything but just pure damage. I guess a defense break, right? But like, yeah, you know, but if you're using this to kill, then it doesn't matter if it's a defense break or not. You killed them. So, you know, so we'll have to see. Cowrick. So right here, all they're really doing here is they're moving his stealth from his S3 to his S2, which makes sense because nobody ever uses the S3 first. They always at least I think it's that way. Yes. So this is the S3. This is the S2, I believe. Nobody ever uses this one first. They always use the one that resets the cooldown first. So just moving in here makes perfect sense, right? And his EE is getting changed to the attack buff happens before he uses the S3 instead of after, which is a lot better. Having an attack buff before you use an attack, is better than not having it. Mortellix. So the Great Mortellix here, he's getting a Soul Burn to increase the chance to decrease defense for 2 turns to 100%, which is a good Soul Burn. He's getting a built-in 30% counterattack on his passive, and this is being buffed his Sacred Blessing to 50%. Well, I don't know how they came up with 40% before, but it is going to 50%, so now when you don't proc it at all, you can get even angrier about it. They're just also just straight up increasing the damage on his S3. Otherwise, everything. Oh, they're also increasing his injury rate to 20%. I don't think this part matters the injury rate matters that much, because I don't know if he'll do damage to units where you really care about this. That much. But this could be, I think they're buffs that make him a solid unit. I don't think he's going to be a meta breaker or anything. But I do think if you had investment in Mortellix, you are very happy about these changes. So Leo, the bomb version. So Firebomb, which is his S2, is getting a defense increase for 2 turns. And then it also decreases the skill cooldown of his S3, like before, and also detonates bombs. This is strong because bomb damage is affected by defense break. And then Go Raku, now it decreases buff durations by 1 turn, which means you strip off immunities and things like that. It also grants a caster's skill nullifier for its once. Now, this still means he's susceptible for these bombs getting cleansed, right? Or like being resisted. So like bombs themselves, I believe, can be resisted. When they explode, like the actual detonation part is you're immune. Like, not immune, but I mean like those can't be resisted, right? But the initial bomb part, you can not be affected, I believe. Also keep in mind too that even though it does decrease buff durations, Emma Leo himself is not the fastest unit. He's like something like 111 speed. So Dominio. So S1, chance to stun 40% like Maid Chloe, but she has a soul burn for 100% for 10 souls, which is good. Her passive. So when an ally suffers a critical hit, has a 35% chance to activate Blizzard Cape. Can be activated once every 3 turns. So the way this is worded, so Blizzard Cape has a barrier and reflect on all allies, so just like her normal skill before, for 2 turns, and the barrier strength increases proportional to the ally's max health. And that's a big change over the caster's attack. So the way this is worded, I'm not sure if you get AoE'd, right? Does it count each character separately? Or is it only 35% no matter what? Because it doesn't say each, right? It just says an ally. But maybe they just assume that it's understood to be each. Because if it's each person, and when it says ally and not except, it usually also counts the minial in the equation. So if you get hit with an AoE, and it works like I think it does, you have a decent chance of proccing this, right? It also works that way. Also, her S3 is being changed to have it to be more consistent. So they're increasing this, the CR decrease to 100% chance, but decreasing the actual CR pushback to 15%. It also increases her speed for 2 turns, which is good enough, right? So I'm looking at this, and she could be a decent option against Cleave. Honestly, if you only care about having something to be used against a Cleave team, right? You could just have this and use her with 0 molars. Because if you activate her S2 against a Cleave 1 time, right? It's like you have a good chance of winning. At least you're a step closer to winning. And against the Cleave team, you are never gonna be able to cycle 3 turns. Remember, because the 3 turns here is the lowest cooldown. It doesn't go to 1 turn. This is after all the molars that are already in the S2. So against those types of teams, you're never gonna get a second proc of this, right? And you're never gonna be able to use her S3 more than once anyway either. So you can just have her with like nothing in her, and have it kind of just stand there, in my opinion. So a potential pretty low investment option for those situations. Now, outside of those situations, now, again, of course, there are things that Cleave teams could do to bypass her. You kind of have to ban Pavel if you use her against Cleave, but like things like Straze and Bryceria are also pretty good against her. But that's good because she seems decent, but she also has counterplay, which I like. Now, outside of those anti-cleave situations, maybe against like Rem or something like that, like really strong against a lot of the heavy AoE, especially like things like Charlotte. As she can't really help but to hit her, right? Obviously not as good against like Landy, or maybe like Landy kills herself on her. But I think she'll be relatively low investment to use. Mercedes again. Okay. So her next is this round of buffs. She's getting a CR boost on her S1. Her S2 will now have a chance to dispel a buff. It's an AoE, so 70% chance per target, which is good. Also, when she has increased attack, and so instead of this 3 or fewer enemy thing, when she has increased attack, she will do the bonus S2, which does mean that if she has increased attack, she will have a 70% chance to dispel a buff each time, which is good, right? And the S3 will now give all allies an attack buff for 2 turns. So let's say theoretically you were going to use her in PvP. You would have to build her like more bulky, because I don't think like Bruiser I don't know. Because her stats are like mage stats, it's hard to make her, and she doesn't have any built-in protection like Carrot. It's kind of hard to be like, yeah, well, you'll S3 and then you'll lap around to S2, right? That seems somewhat unreasonable. They are really good changes for something like PvE, especially things like A13, where if you can consistently have the attack buff up, you can potentially strip off, multiple buffs from the boss and kill the ads, like the eggs too. So artifacts here. Merciless Glutton is getting a single attack. When using a single attack, it uses damage by 16%. Remember, this is at max. So this is at plus 30. So at plus 0, it's 8. At plus 15, it'll be 12%. And when defeating an enemy with a single attack, increases CR of all allies by 12%. So, do you know who's on the artifact from Merciless Glutton? It's Euphine. And you know who Euphine is? She happens to be the little sister of a dragon that's getting buffed named Luna. And Luna's buff, it says, when you kill someone, you get more souls, right? And it's just an EE that says, when you kill someone, you get an extra turn. And you know what both her attacks have in common? They're single target attacks, which means you can use this to just get more damage. And then you can CR boost your party by 12%, 2 times. That seems pretty good. Now, who actually has this artifact right now? I don't know. Okay, also, Synchronous Storm Sword. So the change it's getting is getting a CR readiness increase by the cast of a 24% when the enemy uses a non-attack skill. Everything else is still the same. Like the other ones, it is half this for plus 0, so 12% at plus 0, and then 50% more, so 18% at plus 15. You still need plus 30 to get the 100% chance to have the attack buff, unfortunately, so it is still an artifact you really want to have a plus 30. This artifact is honestly really only useful on Selene. In my opinion, this could have some usage. Maybe you have like another fast thief you can use, because of the CR boost, right? I feel like this might become a relatively more popular artifact though, because there are things like Emilia, Maid, Ruel, stuff like that that are kind of running around right now, and it'll make something like this a lot more beneficial, even outside of Selene, I guess. But all in all, I think these are good changes. As a recap, Apoc Ravi, I think the buffs are huge for her. Luna, I also think her buffs are very strong. We'll have to see though just how much damage she does push out with their S3 into S1 combo. Cowick, I don't think it's gonna change that much. Mortelix, I think will be a good unit, but not a I don't think he'll be at the same power as Apoc, right? Or even things like, say, Charlotte. You know, definitely not like Carrot Landy level. Roman Warrior Leo, I think he'll see niche play. You can draft him with like just him and Caesarea, but then he gets kind of ban Caesarea in those situations, and you're kind of left with a hero that might not quite do enough by himself. One important thing though to note about Roman Warrior Leo is the way bombs work. I believe it's going to happen is that some heroes have decreased debuff durations instead of cleanse. And that means when you decrease the debuff durations, you are in fact making the bombs tick down to 0, right? And they'll explode when that happens. So maybe it'll be like, an interesting counterpick to those types of cleansers, right? Dominiel, like I said, might be good against anti-cleave. Please choose a 4-star. I think she'll be low investment. Mercedes, they keep like giving her these incremental buffs. Her, without any built-in protection in her kit, and because of her stats, she's never gonna be real PvP viable, I think. So just be a PvE unit. Marissa's Glutton, very strong buff, especially for Luna now, if you can't run something like Sigurds. And Secret of Stormsword, with all the things that are happening that are non-attack skills, could see some pickup from various thieves that, might want to cut in and wreak some havoc. So those are my thoughts there on the buffs. A little bit longer than usual, but don't forget that these do not happen until about a couple of weeks. 9/2. So you have time to pull, to think about it, save a little bit. Anyway, I'm Al Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.